Welcome to the Love Frequency, where we love frequently. My name is Ange, the Love Freak, and I want to say thank you for tuning in to the Love Freak podcast. Or if you're tuning in on YouTube, I want to say how you doing. What the Love Frequency is all about is spreading good, positive vibrations out into the world so that we can live in a state of abundance and we can manifest the life that we truly desire by raising our vibrations and operating on that frequency. And today, we talk various topics. So if you're watching on the YouTube, I definitely say click subscribe. If you're watching on the podcast, click the link at the bottom and subscribe to the YouTube. But also give me a comment on the podcast and let me know what you're thinking, how you're feeling, and where you're from. Tell me about you. I want to get to know everyone and definitely build some genuine relationships here on the Love Frequency, because there's a movement that we're doing and we definitely want to push these good vibes throughout the world. So definitely keep in touch, comment, subscribe, share, and let me know what you think, because the goal is about providing value, providing value to you. But today's topic is something that we all have experienced, I'm sure, at one point in our lives or the other. And that is the idea of toxic relationships. Oh, yes. We have all had some crazy stories, or at least heard some crazy stories about toxic relationships. Well, what is a toxic relationship? Toxic relationships are those tumultuous type relationships where it's like you're always arguing, you're always fighting. It's always this bad vibe. It's like you're supposed to be with the person that you're supposed to love, quote unquote, but yet it's like you don't even like each other. You can't even stand each other, but yet you are attached to each other, and it's like you don't want to be apart from each other. Like, this person is no good for you, but yet you're staying in this situation, and it's only causing you pain upon pain upon pain until eventually something happens where somebody has to get up out of it because it's no good for you. And it's like your energy was been told you to get up out this relationship, but you're still in it. That's a toxic relationship. Toxic relationships, that's when you start talking about cheaters and all that stuff. But you know what? A lot of that doesn't have to do with the person. A lot of the times that has to do with what we see on TV and what we think is normal. And we talked about this in the first episode. If you go back to the podcast, if you go back to our first episode, we talked about this. We talked about media influence. And that's what happens. Media influence definitely takes effect on how we build relationships, because we only model after what's in our subconscious. We only model after what we constantly see, whether in movies, whether on these talk shows. And you know what another show I blame? And I used to watch this when I was young. I used to watch Murray. I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. Murray or whatever. Okay. That show get on my dang on nerves. And this ain't promotion for them because of the toxicity that it emits into the minds. And people get hooked on watching that show. I remember when I was younger, in my early 20s, even when I was like a teenager and just kind of growing up, Murray, it was always on daytime television. And not just Murray, but shows like it. And Jerry Springer, gosh, these damn talk shows, okay? Ricky Lake, that was like when I was young and a kid, right? Like a kid, I was a child watching these talk shows. And it's just normal, and they just come on and they're entertaining, right? They're entertaining. So they're fun to watch other people's relationships and the drama that goes on. But what we're not realizing is happening while we're watching these shows, they're getting programmed. And so therefore, as we're watching them and we think we're just getting entertained, oh, ha, 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 the whole time we're manifesting these situations in our own lives because we're watching it. If it's not exactly that situation, it's a rendition of it, okay? It's still bringing in that toxicity where we're not saying, okay, this is what relationship was. This is what relationship is. This is, what it's not. We're saying, well, it's normal. Like, that's what we see on TV. So this has to be just a normal thing in relationships. And you'll even get that kind of advice from people. There will be people that will give you that kind of advice. They'd be like, well, that just happens in relationships. You just got to have patience and it takes time, darling. But let me tell you this. we need to get up out of that mindset. We need to get up out of that mindset thinking that certain things that goes on within relationships are normal. Like cheating is not normal. You know, and I don't really like to say this, but my mom one time told me this. She's like, men are gonna cheat. That's what they do. Men are gonna cheat. But I'm like, you know what? I refuse to believe that. Now I understand some do. And then I mean, I can go deep onto the subject, right? Like they say men cheat, right? I mean, women cheat too, but we always say men cheat. And the thing is, when it comes to relationships, should we redefine what relationships are and how we actually do relationships in a society? Because there are some people who say monogamy is not normal. They like to compare it to the animal kingdom. Well, look at the lion and his pride. You know, he got all the females. Hey, he's a head honcho. And how animals aren't monogamous is what, you know, people will say. And if we have that animalistic characteristic within us, then it's not innate or in our nature to be monogamous. And I'm like, okay, I can understand that theory or that point of view. And then there are those that say that, it should be monogamy. But where did monogamy even stem from? And I'm thinking that goes back to when they started doing the arranged marriages and things like that. That's where monogamy truly stemmed from, in my opinion. But if you kind of have done research more on, relationships and how we became to do the things that we do, please comment or point me to a resource, because I'm starting to do these I'm starting to do these researches now that I can give you all this information, but on where it came. Because in order to understand why we act the way we act, we got to understand what happened prior to, going on in our history with our ancestors. What did they do? How did they do it? And even in a lot of African tribes, African cultures, they don't practice monogamy. Their man has many wives. But what about, polygamy? What about polygamy? What about when the woman has many husbands? And then what is your view on that? They always talk about that. Oh yeah, well, it's different. That's what men like to say. It's different. They was like, you think of it as a lock. A master key can fit in many locks, but and it's considered a master key when a key can fit in many locks. But when any key can fit in one lock, it's considered a bad lock. That's that's the analogy. That's the analogy I've heard. But to stay away from toxic relationships, we have to understand why we're in them in the first place. And we are in them, like I said, because it's predicated upon, what we see in the media, and also what has been passed down in our DNA based upon our familial structure. So what did our family believe in? What did they pass down to us? What did they pass down? And a lot of the times, what we practice, what we think, thought forms are trapped in DNA. And that's why we act the way we act, because it's in our DNA. So we have to repair our DNA and restructure in our minds so we can get out of these toxic relationships. And I've been in toxic relationships. And the most toxic relationship, I would like to call it, and I don't even want to call it a relationship, because I feel like a relationship should be defined as something where you have two people that come together and they both bring some type of value and they have some aspect of love for each other. With this situation was more like a situationship, but it had its purpose. It had its purpose, but it was very toxic. It was so toxic to the point I could not walk. Okay. I lost my ability to walk. Like it was so toxic. It affected me physically in order for me to get up out of the situation. Like this situation, it was with, it was a guy, right? And, I was just starting my thing. I was just starting my, It's the G, my blog. I was out there doing interviews. I was in the radio world. So I was doing radio, club promotions, and I had my own YouTube internet blog. And it was growing. I was getting plenty success from it right away, but I wouldn't have the money, financial millionaire mindset that I needed more firmly. Like I didn't have that foundation. Like I knew about it, but it wasn't strong to sustain what I was doing. And I got caught up in a lifestyle. I got caught up in this lifestyle because it was so fun and it was just bomb. And I felt like I was the ish, right? So I met this guy and he owned a bar at the time. He was an owner of an establishment. And I thought that was pretty cool. And I was actually really just trying to sell him a radio ad. I was like, how about you do a radio ad, purchasing for the radio, blah, 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 blah. But we ended up just kind of vibing and kind of trying to, I was like, okay, how can we work together? And then he was kind of like a youthful spirit. So probably just nowadays what I would call immature, a little immature. But he had a youthful spirit, kind of easygoing, real cool and fun. He was a party guy. He was all about parties and throwing parties. And I was like, yeah, like he's business minded, or so I thought. Maybe he was caught up in the lifestyle a little too much. And I was blinded by that mirror. It was a smoke and mirror. I was blinded by that. Okay. And I didn't really see what was behind the curtains. I was just like, okay, he owns his own business. That's real cool, very noble. I was like, okay, respect. So we ended up vibing. Things led to another. It became a situation. And I ended up getting pregnant, you know what I'm saying? So I got pregnant. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. How did this happen? Oh, I can tell you how it happened. And that's when everything got real. That whole lifestyle got hit me. Like, whoa, halt. It got to a stop where it said, okay, pause. Now you need to rethink about life right now because it's about to change. And he ended up being someone who was not necessarily a good guy in the end. He ended up being someone who was one of those guys that were rolling stones. And when I got in a situation with him, I was like, okay, let's try to work something out. He ended up having he has a child, and he that didn't really know the situation between him and his baby mom was the way that it was. And that was the most toxic relationship they had a nasty toxic relationship, and it spilled over into my life. So here I am building up my life, doing fun, great things, keeping my mindset positive, or at least trying to be on that mindset. But like I said, I got caught up in that life, and I ended up absorbing his toxic energy, and the toxic energy that was from what he was dealing with his child's mother. And she, oh my gosh, she didn't like me. There was drama. It was like that baby mama drama I was dealing with. I dealt with baby mama drama. We're dealing with that. Okay. And he ended up being someone where it's like he only had the bar because it was a life insurance inheritance type deal. And so he splurged it on a bar. So it wasn't like he saved up and had the mindset. So, you know, I was young and dumb, and I didn't really take into consideration time before I jumped and moved too fast with someone. And it became a toxic situation, and he wasn't there when I was like pregnant for a good amount of time. He ended up going to jail. He ended up becoming a whole, like, literally everything kind of just, the smoke just cleared, and like all the reality kind of just at once, like with an instant. And I was like, whoa, reality, whoa, you are a snake. You are a trickster. Who are you? You're not the guy I thought I met. You are what is it called? A poser. He was a poser. And, but I ended up, trying to stick it out after I had the baby, trying to stick it out for whatever reason. I think it's because I wanted that, let's do the family thing. Let's try to see if we can work it out. Don't know why. If he couldn't do it with the other ones, why did I think he would do it with me? But anyway, so we tried to work it out, but he ended up just being somebody who just wanted a place to stay. Yes, I was in a situation like this, y'all. He wanted a place to stay, but it was very toxic. He wasn't helpful. I went to a business conference in North Carolina. It was like this big, over 20,000 people, major speakers were there. And I wasn't wearing the proper clothes, proper shoes for the weather. At the time, it was really cold. I didn't realize it got that damn cold. And plus with the humidity. And I ended up getting, my knee ended up swelling up at that time. And that's when I came back home. and he had no sympathy at all, didn't want to help. I had already been dealing with, females coming to my door, his baby mama coming to my door, some other shit coming to my door. And I'm like, yo, I cannot, this is too much. Like, I'm not even this type of person to have people in my space like that. And I was already dealing with that, and I was already contemplating him having to go anyway. Was watching this thing on television. Actually, it was one night I couldn't sleep because he was out with my car. Yes, I was in one of those situations. Don't ask me how I did it, darling. I was young and dumb, naive, and just led by a physical attraction. And sex, because sex is an attachment. And I didn't know how to clear my energy at that time. But I do now, and I'm going to actually give you some great ways to rise above attachment. So if you find yourself always dealing with toxic relationships and situations, and you're like, how the heck do I end up in this shit, right? Then I have some good tips for you later on after Stars Crystals, where I will tell you about different ways to protect your energy from toxicity. From it not to get into your skin, not to get into your aura, and for you to stay above that level, stay above, flipping out and feeling depressed over somebody. All right. And for you to stay true to yourself. And that's why we talk about self-love all the time. That's why I can sit here today and I can talk about self-love. I can talk about self-love because I know what it was like to not love myself enough to have put myself in a situation to where it was toxic. Because had I been the woman that I am today, the queen that I am today, standing here before you, there was no way that would have happened. There was no way that would have happened. But that's what I mean when I say certain situations are meant to happen. And so that we can learn certain lessons and that we can rise above it and we can continue to move on. Because what I learned after that situation, after I affected my knee, I couldn't walk, and I saw that he had no sympathy. He was still doing whatever he wanted to do, didn't want to help with anything. I was like, no, darling, you gotta go. You gotta go. He was alcoholic type deal. He went from the party life to just somebody who liked to drink all the time. All right, how the heck did you who are you? Get off my damn couch and get out of my house. Go back to your baby mama. That's what I told him pretty much. I was like, look, I don't see it. I told him I had to break it down, but I was nice. I was like, I don't see a future with this. I was like, cause I don't know, you're not the type that's gonna get married or want to settle down too much. You gotta go. You gotta go. And he left, and he ain't never been back, darling. Not in that way. And it took me a while to even cleanse that energy out because I didn't know how to cleanse my energy. And it took a while for that to build up. It literally built, like, it really crashed my entire, everything that I built up from that point on. Because I had built up to where I had a 3-story townhome, I had garage, had a new car that I purchased, everything. Like, I was building up a good life for me and my daughter. And now here I am with 2. And I lost a lot of that. I had to give up my home because I could no longer afford the payments. And I tried to move to Atlanta and all that stuff. If anybody ever followed my story, you can actually go follow my story and hear a little bit more about it on the podcast for the last Friday's episode. And it was kind of like my journey, my story. But that ended up being the woman I am today. I'm about fitness, fit life, self-love, love frequency because of a toxic relationship. And so if you're in a toxic relationship, I just want to let you know that here's the words of a wisdom that I got from Adia. People are like trees, like roots on a tree. There's certain people that are meant to stay in your life for a reason, season, and a lifetime. And some people are like the roots on a tree, and usually that's family. That's the roots on your tree. And then some people are like the branches. Sometimes they break off and they go, but they're solid. But sometimes they break off, okay? Those are the branches. They serve this purpose, time to go. And then some people like the leaves. Man, they change with the seasons. They gonna come in your life for this season and they gonna be out, okay? And you gotta know who's who. And the way that you know who's for your life, especially a relationship, is if you are dealing with a situation and you tell this person, like, I don't like what you're doing. What you're doing is affecting me in this way. Now, if that person makes no attempt to change in any way possible, they don't give a damn. Get them the hell out. They're toxic and they don't have love in their heart. But if they see that it's something that is hurting you, they're going to do it. They're going to switch up, and you see them attempting to switch up their behavior to try to be better, then keep them around a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Not too long, because if they can't get it right, then they still got to go. That means they ain't the one for you. My thing is, I'm going to take it a step above what Medea was saying. Look, the person for you is just going to vibe. It's just going to fucking vibe, and it's just going to mesh, and it's just going to work. And that's just who you work with. And I was like, I will be single forever if need be. But I am not going to settle. There's no way that I will settle or even think about settling again in any toxicity. Anything that makes me feel toxic. And honestly, this is not going to be the last episode on toxic relationships, because I have plenty more examples of how relationships can be toxic, because I can tell you plenty. That was just one of my experiences. But I'm grateful for that experience, because I became the woman I am today. And I love my daughter. My daughter is amazing. That is my mini-me, okay? So I love my children. I have 2 daughters now. And all for a reason. Everything happened for a reason. But I had to get out of that toxic relationship. I had to get out of it. It took me to get out of it in order for me to grow. If I was not in that toxic relationship, I may not even have been alive. Not to say he would have killed me, but the stress from his ass would have killed me. You know what I'm saying? Because it almost did. Like, I'm telling you, my leg. They still don't even know why it inflamed up. They like to call it stuff, but I ain't never, ever, since that time had an issue with my knee again. But I've only been working on being healthier since then as well, and more fit. Now I'm about that fit life. So if you follow me, you know who I am. I'm a fitness instructor. I'm also a trainer. So I actually have a personal, a small group training today that I'm about to head out to. But I wanted to give y'all this podcast video about toxic relationships and why we should get out of them as soon as possible. But make sure that you subscribe. Stay tuned, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a practice that is going to help you with keeping your energy above that, staying above attachment and all of that, okay? Oh my gosh, I'm coming up with all kind of ideas, but I got some great stuff for you coming up. We're definitely going to get into it. We'll start getting into like sex and how that plays a role in vibration and the energy that you have with someone else. So we need to be careful with sex and who we are giving our sex to, and that will definitely come up in later episodes. Make sure you subscribe. You don't want to miss this information, darling. But the key and the message for today is if you're in a toxic relationship right now, if you are dealing with a person, place, or thing and a relationship don't even mean a person. It can mean a situation. It can mean work. It can mean a boss. I mean, it don't have to be like a romantic relationship. Any type of situation that is toxic for you. If you feel like, yo, this is not cool, it's dragging me down, you can do bad by your damn self, and you can do better by your damn self if need be. That's what I'm gonna tell you. Get out of that situation, do better, okay? Because it's going to only hold you back. And when things are toxic, it is not meant for you to stay in it. When things are a toxic relationship, it's meant for you to learn whatever lesson you need to learn in it and move on. Or that lesson is going to be stronger and stronger until you learn it. Like, you're not going to be able to stay in a toxic relationship and it literally like just lasts. No, something will happen whether it's major or minor, but something's going to happen to get you up out of that situation. So it's better to get up out of the situation early than to let it destroy you any further than maybe it already has been. Okay? So, no more toxic relationships. If you are on the podcast, Stars Crystals is coming up next. So make sure that you stay tuned in to get the crystal of the day. And also to subscribe to Stars YouTube. The link will be at the bottom. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you next time. I have a special guest. I'm so excited about this guest I have coming up. He is a motivational speaker. We call him Dr. Bounce Back. And he is going to bring us some good jewels for our episode. So make sure you tune in so you can capture that. I don't want you to miss this. I don't want you to miss this great energy that we have coming up. So make sure that you stay upon this love frequency where we love frequently. And my name is Ange. Make sure you join that text messaging service where you text at the @ Love Freq, LOVEFREQ, to the numbers 81010 to receive inspirational, motivational text messages and to stay connected to the community of love healers, love spreaders, people that want to just spread love to the world. And I'll talk to you later. Thank you for tuning in.